Welcome to What's Up Poland, where we talk about news stories related to Poland. And of course, we're keeping a close eye on the situation on the Russia-Ukraine border. This has been absurdly described by some people in the media as a Ukraine crisis. There couldn't be anything further from the sort. This is a crisis, of course, induced by the fact that Russia has been massing over time for the last few months a significant number of troops on the Russian-Ukrainian border. And indeed, Russian troops are now present in Belarus, which borders with Poland, along with a small section of Russia, Kaliningrad, on Poland. So as you can imagine, Poland, for actual reasons and for historical reasons and for strategic geopolitical reasons, is very much keeping an eye on the situation on that border. Well, here's some good news. Unlike, unfortunately, in previous conflicts, Poland is not being left on its own. This is the news that both American and British troops are reinforcing their NATO presence in Poland. Poland is a number of Central and Eastern European countries which joined NATO. I've seen some really absurd reaction pieces in various online articles. I won't go into details as to who, some ridiculous assertions that, well, you know, the situation with Russia, you know, we wouldn't be there if NATO hadn't forced itself on all of these Central and Eastern European countries. So here's a denizen, originally born in the UK, but now living in Poland. That is one of the most absurd things I've ever felt. Because I can tell you now, people in Poland are sleeping safely, not concerned for their future tomorrow or next week, not escaping the country. I know a few people who've had to leave Ukraine right now with their families in a rush. Imagine explaining that to a 5-year-old, simply because they are members of NATO. Try explaining to them that this is all some kind of neoconservative US plot to dominate the world and outmaneuver Russia. You know, these are the kind of things that we'll see online. And in an atmosphere of uncertainty, when people are worrying quite rightly about what could be happening to our eastern border and our countries to our east, the good news is we're not alone. So British and American troops are coming into Poland in significant numbers. We've seen American soldiers from the 82nd Airborne Division, an elite unit, as well as British soldiers. I think the first additional contingent arrived in December, about 140 additional troops. And on the 10th of February, an additional group of 350 British Marines. So again, a group of elite British soldiers. To be a Marine, you have to be tough as nails and hard as concrete. From the 45 Commando Royal Marines has arrived. So I'm just going to quote the Polish minister: "Soldiers from Great Britain are coming to Poland." He wants to add an exclamation mark, I'm sure. In the course of my talks with Ben Wallace, so the UK Defence Minister, we agreed that 350 British Marines would strengthen the forces of Great Britain already in Poland, said Minister Błaszczak. He's the Defence Minister, and that would significantly strengthen security on the eastern flank of NATO. Now, here's the thing. I'm pleased, not just because I happen to have, be British, but I'm pleased because that's a very visible sign to everybody that NATO's commitments to all of its members, and the clause which says an attack on one is an attack on all, is very obvious. Now, when I've posted about this in the past, when I've talked to Polish people, I have to admit one thing. I do sometimes come across people who are a little bit skeptical of the NATO commitment to its members, and also the fact that there's UK and American soldiers in Poland, because they go back to history. History does count. It never repeats itself, but it does rhyme. And of course, people look back into the past for examples about what could happen today and what might happen and how to behave. And I have to say, I've done the same. At times in the last few weeks, I felt like we're talking like it's August 39 again. I've done quite a lot of significant research into the Second World War, specifically from the Polish perspective, but also specifically from the Polish Jewish perspective. Read probably well over 100 books just on the Holocaust itself. And I remember how many times in those books I'd find quotes from Polish Jews or people just before the war saying, this is never going to happen. Things will never get that bad. Eli Wiesel, for example, who was a Hungarian Jew who sadly went through Auschwitz with his father, and his entire family was killed. And he watched his father being killed in front of him. He would say in his little village in Hungary, I think in 1942, before they were evacuated, maybe 1943, before they were sent to the camps, no, it's okay. Things are okay, The human belief and hope in goodness stays within many of us. And that's an easy thing to say. And it's true most of the time. But there are some times when it's not true. And at times like that, it pays to have backup. Well, as we all know, if you look back into history, in August 39, Poland didn't really have backup. It had assurances, but from neighbors that were way too far to the west to actually help it in its time of need. Side note, when I went and met one of the greatest British historians on Poland, Roger Moorhouse, a fantastic guy. You can watch a 2-part interview with him about the origins of the Second World War that we recorded at the Museum of World War II in Gdansk. He said to me that actually if France had invaded from the west into Germany, it was literally a couple of divisions, hardly anything on the western border of Germany and France. So if France had attacked, they would have walked right into Germany and captured Berlin straight away, plus minus a few days. So now I feel like we're having the same kind of conversation, like this couldn't happen again. They said the same thing just before World War II. This isn't really serious. This is all about that mishy-mashy propaganda thing. Well, they said the same thing back in August 39. History never repeats itself, but it does rhyme. But one thing is different this time. There are boots on the ground on the territory of the Republic of Poland. There is no better guarantee of NATO's commitment to all of its NATO members. And to all the, frankly, morons who are saying that Poland and other countries joining NATO is some kind of neoconservative plot, I got to tell you, people are sleeping soundly in their beds tonight in this country because they're protected by people who are willing to protect them. So think about that. It does mean something. It means peace and security because the other side know that too. Thanks for watching this episode of What's Up Poland. We will keep you in touch with events that are happening in Poland, particularly relating to this security crisis as and when it comes through. So make sure you subscribe to this channel, watch more videos. And of course, don't forget, it's not just all about war and geopolitics. You can also find inspiring, amusing, educational stories about the country of Poland. That's what this entire channel is about. So share this film on, tell other people about it, go and watch some other episodes. And I'll see you again for another episode of What's Up Poland.